Hello and welcome back to Games Embassy with the Ambassadors of Gaming. I'm one of your three hosts, Ambassador Chris.
I'm Ambassador Michael.
And I'm Ambassador Kevin.
And we have news about stuff. Welcome to our humble corner of YouTube and the internet. We have news about stuff. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I like how you went to ask me. I have a slight hangover.
Hard.
I have What did you think I was going to ask? You think just because Mike is my adopted brother that I somehow value him more than you? That's not right.
Just hop over Mike completely.
Mike's here.
That's fine, yeah.
Say hello, Mike.
Hello, I'm here. I also help with this show sometimes.
You know, editing it and producing it and writing a script for it.
It's a lot.
And then not talking during most of it.
And then, what do you mean not talking during most of it?
I talk a lot, but I try not to ramble on too much. That's my downfall, is the pointless rambles.
Yeah. So, before we get into it, Mike, why don't you give us our plug?
Yes, so we have a Patreon. If you would like to support us, get some cool content, you get some exclusive content over there. Right now we have, I think we put out 3. No, we're at 2 right now. We've put out 2 exclusive pieces of content over there. There is a test episode of something we are calling Group Chat. It's something we're testing out, something we're looking into maybe bringing on as a full-time thing. And then we have a special E3 video. And then I am also finishing up the third exclusive, the normal exclusive for the month there. So you can get some cool stuff there. And that is $1 a month. That is an insanely low entry point. And then you can get some also cool perks for $2, $5 a month, stuff like that. So if you would like to support us there, awesome. If not, just watching, sharing, and helping us fight the algorithm is good enough for me.
help us fight the YouTube man that is stepping on our necks.
For real.
And also, Mike needs to eat, and I'm pretty sure Kevin doesn't have shoes.
Oh.
It's funny because right now I'm actually barefoot too, so that's kind of funny.
Me too. It makes you feel any better. All right.
Well, Mike needs shoes. Oh no, I'm sorry. Kevin needs shoes. Mike needs food.
Yes,
that's
I would like to eat.
Okay. So, we should go ahead and get right into the updates. From Software has no more plans to make VR games. That's right. That PSVR of yours that you spent your hard-earned money on, once again, is just going to gather even more dust.
Don't remind me. It hurts.
My coworker actually just sold his PSVR. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, good. Well, tell him it was a good idea, but it would have been a better idea never to buy it in the first place. Speaking to Destructoid, producer Masanori Takeuchi, hopefully I didn't butcher that, said that the studio has no plans to make another VR game. Takeuchi said the team found that working with PSVR was, quote, more limiting than expected. We couldn't quite render and depict the things we wanted to using PSVR. Just the hardware and the know-how we had at the time. End quote. He went on to say that, quote, perhaps we'll wait a little bit and see what happens with the PS5 or the next-gen hardware, and then see what sort of performance we can get from that, what we can render on that hardware, and then make a decision, end quote.
All right, Bloodstained launched with a game-breaking bug. The game that took about 1 billion years to come out came with a game-breaking bug. If players start their game before downloading the 1.02 update, players may be unable to progress. The update may open chests that require progression items, thus blocking the player's ability to complete the game unless they restart with the first save. So basically, if you have a key item that you need to get from the chest will already be open, and you do not have that key item in your inventory, so you cannot progress at all.
Right, which pretty much means anybody who bought it day one or the Kickstarter version, basically, or reviewers have to restart their game, basically, if they encounter the bug. It seems to be pretty frequent.
Or people that be getting games early, especially in New York, a lot of people get games 5 days early and stuff. They kind of screwed.
Yeah, that's true. We did see somebody within Fanboys that got it early. So it's I don't know. As I said at the top of the show, I got Bloodstained on Switch, so thankfully I got it digitally, so I won't have that problem. But I feel that it was important to discuss in case anybody does buy the physical version. Don't be impatient. Just download the update, then play the game. So, Cyberpunk 2077 will be a complete game with expansions, just like The Witcher 3.
Keanu!
Yeah, that's... Keanu has become a meme
Sorry.
now.
Whoa.
I just get
I'm a little too excited.
Yeah, I think he is. UI coordinator Alvin Liu spoke to Prima Games stating, quote, "We want to make sure everything's complete, but we also want to build open worlds. I know when I was playing The Witcher 3 and I finished everything, I still want to know what everyone was up to. I think we're going to have opportunities like that as well for Cyberpunk 2077.
I
End
cannot
quote.
wait for this game.
So,
This game looks so
And not because of Keanu Reeves, just because
Yeah,
of
Cyberpunk's
just
gonna
looking
be-
better and better.
yeah, it already had a lot of people sold before he was announced to be in it, and now they're just like icing on the cake. You know?
I want Keanu Reeves to live in my head in real life. I can't. We need to work on the science.
like
Okay. I guess.
Speaking of The Witcher, I'm excited. I know it's totally off the mark, but I am excited to play that on the Switch. I feel like The Witcher 3 is going to be awesome on the Switch. I'm excited for that.
I'm very interested to see how it runs because The Witcher 3 ran
Yeah.
pretty good on PS4 when I played it on base PS4, but it's also the inputs are kind of, the combat's pretty difficult, so I'm pretty interested to see how that translates to the Joy-Cons because if you're unaware, I went through our channel recently and I was looking at all our old videos because I was like, I want to be embarrassed by myself. So I did that and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I streamed The Witcher 3 that one time and I got my ass kicked for like 2 hours because I'm really bad at it. so I'm interested to see how you feel about it on Switch with the Joy-Cons.
Kevin, did you play Breath of the Wild?
Like basically, like I had to switch.
Oh, well,
for, like,
I'm sorry.
And I went to California. It was my nephew's birthday. I was like, here you go. So like, literally, I only had to. Yeah, like
Yeah, I don't need this.
I'll try not to judge you too hard. So, Breath of the Wild being a launch title, it was a really big game, and it didn't. I think I've already discussed this in a previous episode, so I won't go on it too long. Breath of the Wild ran okay. It had a few frame rate dips, and because of the huge open world, I know the battery only lasted about 3.5 hours, which is fine for most like day commutes or something if you're on a train or on a bus or something. But I wouldn't be surprised if The Witcher 3 encounters those same issues. Maybe a few frame rate drops, maybe some textures have trouble rendering if you get through them too quickly, and maybe the battery doesn't last.
What's the resolution for Breath of the Wild? Well, it's on
totally
what's
off
the
the
resolution?
720p on the handheld screen and 1080p on the dock.
Yeah.
Shouldn't.
Yeah, Witcher's really low, but it also had way more assets. Like, Witcher's world is way more populated than Breath of the Wild's was. Like, there's a lot of, trees and stuff like that, so.
What consoles are Cyberpunk coming to?
Xbox, PS4,
PC.
and PC, I think. Yeah.
Every time you say, even when you say, like Shuriken, where you say Keanu, Shuriken for, Street Fighter?
Keanu. Yeah. Okay. Well, and I'm stewing in my own muck over here, so I think I'm going to move on to the.
All right.
I'm going to move. I'm going to move on to the first news story.
That's fine.
As long as it's okay with Kevin. Okay, thank you.
I'll allow it.
You ever seen the Smugs Bunny meme?
No, but it sounds fun.
Have you seen Smugs Bunny? Oh, it's hilarious. It's Bugs Bunny in like a royal outfit sitting on a throne.
Okay.
And it was just I don't want to say the meme because it could be offensive, but it was so perfect. It was so funny.
I see it.
You'll have to send it to me.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Enough about me, though. Let's move on to something more important. Let's move on to Destiny.
The second most important thing in your life.
It's the third. Kayla's first, then like college, then Destiny.
Okay.
And then you.
Oh,
wow.
All right.
I feel glad to be on that list. Just in general.
All right. He's like, honestly, I'm just glad to be up there in the top 5. I'll take it. Well, one more remark and Kevin might pass you up.
I'm just laughing right here.
So, Yeah. Bungie shares its plans on how it will handle Eververse post with the post Activision business. You know, they split from Activision. Eververse, if you're unaware, is the premium store you can buy things from in Destiny. Of course, people don't really care for it, but of course, ever since they left Activision, they've been making everyone happy. So in September, all of the armor in Eververse is being converted to universal ornaments, and these can be applied to all Year 3 2.0 armor sets that are releasing this fall with their new expansion, Shadowkeep. Any Eververse armor in your collection will already give you the universal ornament so that you can use it for all of the armor that it's equipped to. You will no longer be able to purchase Bright Dust, which is one of the currencies along with silver that you could use to buy things from Eververse. You'll be able to earn Bright Dust by completing Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit bounties all in all game modes inside of Destiny, and completing bounties each week in their additional avenue will give you more Bright Dust. And even after you complete those, there will be a way per each weekly reset to continue your grind for Bright Dust. You'll no longer need to spend Bright Dust to get those items back from the collections either. You buy them with Bright Dust from there once, and then they're in your inventory. So you can just buy them back for in-game currency that is really easily obtainable. And that all starts on September 17th with the release of Shadowkeep. And just a last fun little note, dismantling Eververse items after that time will give you legendary shards and glimmer. So if you have stuff you don't want right now, dismantle it and you can pick it up from collections later. But if you dismantle it now, you'll get Bright Dust, but you won't get it later. So, good stuff.
I know you're
I'm
very
yelling at my
excited,
house.
but I
I
honestly
just realized I was yelling.
I have no idea what some of this stuff means. So elaborate if you would. What are the ornaments? Is that like a cosmetic thing?
Ornaments are, so if you have an armor piece, the best example is the Year 1 Iron Banner armor set. Rather than make a whole new armor set, because, I mean, let's be honest, they were kind of lazy at the time because Activision was stepping on their throats, they released an ornament so that you could change the way the armor looks. Just give you a new...
So is it a skin? It's not like a shader, right?
No, it's not a shader. It changes the entire look.
Okay, but it keeps
changes
the,
like the details and everything.
The aesthetic to whatever, or the stats of whatever item it originally had. It just changes the shape.
Keeps the stats.
Okay.
So what they're doing now is all of the Eververse armor you could get is now being converted into ornaments. And now certain armor pieces in Year 3 will just let you apply those. So that way you can have more control over how your Guardian looks, because there are a bunch of people in any game.
That was always my biggest
like Dark
complaint.
Souls. Yeah, and it was Justin's biggest complaint too, our friend Justin. In Dark Souls, people face the same thing. Do you want the armor that looks cool, or do you want the armor with the best stats and the best abilities? Well, now you can get the best of both worlds in this scenario. You have the armor that you like how it looks, and you get the stats that you want.
Cool.
Well, the complaint was always that all the armor looked exactly the same. Everybody always ended up looking exactly the same in Destiny. That was the problem that everybody had.
Exactly. And there's still an issue with that because of the exotic items. There are a lot of exotic items that are only a few that are really good, and the rest that just aren't used.
Yeah,
I would know because I'm wearing the same leg armor, exotic leg armor that like 100 other hunters are.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
Kevin, you play Destiny?
Like I have probably over 2,000 to 3,000 hours in Destiny 1, but I became a manager and life happens. And when Destiny 2 came out, I only played the campaign, and that was it. I was like, I'm not gonna play this game seriously. I don't want to make the time for it.
Well, Destiny didn't have a very good launch. Destiny 2 didn't have a very good launch. In fact, it mimicked the life cycle of Destiny 1 a little bit. The first two expansions were garbage. I think the first Destiny 2 expansion is considered to be the worst addition to Destiny over its entire life.
Like this,
Osiris, right?
Curse of Osiris was absolute
you've mentioned.
Destiny 1
garbage.
I had
you thought it was
4
really bad,
Gallahorns. I played that game religiously. Oh my goodness, man.
Your name on Facebook. Your name on Facebook
And
used
then
to
when
be
they
Kevin
they
Gallagher.
didn't you know how on the updates they didn't increase the light level for the Gallahorn, so I put Kevin R.P. Gallahorn Lemonnier,
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that. They with the
Taken,
release
yeah.
with the release of Taken King, they were like, yeah, some weapons aren't going to be brought into year 2, and one of
they
them is
killed
Gallahorn.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I remember.
But I think this is really good news. I'm not just talking about for Destiny in general, but I'm hoping that this starts a trend.
Even RPGs and stuff.
With
Right.
microtransactions being yeah,
Right.
I'm not talking about looks and armor in general. I'm talking about the way that some of these stores handle themselves. It makes sense
Right.
because Activision and EA, God forbid, EA is like the Ganondorf of microtransactions.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm trying to say, I'm mixing my words. Ever since Bungie left Activision, they're making really good steps to making their premium store way more user friendly and making people not so hesitant. Okay, I actually want to give Bungie a little bit of money. They're making this game really good. They're making me not forced to buy things. I don't have a problem spending a little bit of money here and there, to donate it to. When you think about it, donating it to the studio that's making a game you like.
Right. Correct
You know
me
what
if
I'm
I'm
saying?
wrong, but in reading this, you can't buy Bright Dust anymore, right? So now it's just another in-game currency you earn, right? So there's just no way to buy Bright Dust. So there's no way to buy items
Bright
with
Dust,
money in
the
Eververse.
way it worked was that there's this currency called silver. That's the premium currency.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
And when you buy something from Eververse, and dismantle it, you get Bright Dust. And there are things on the featured storefront and everything that say you can buy things for Bright Dust. So it's like a half premium currency.
Oh, so it's okay, that's weird. All right. I was just curious because I'm like, are they removing the in-game option to buy shit? Is that because
you can still buy things for silver, but what they're trying to say is things are way more accessible, and the currency to buy things in game, you don't it's not some sort of thing oh, I can buy it here or I can quest for 4 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's reasonable.
They made it more efficient that you can earn things in game.
Okay.
And not
that's
to buy
good.
it. Yeah.
I was just curious because I thought it was an interesting move. They're making good post Activision moves. I think ultimately the point you were getting to is they're making compromising moves where they're not necessarily what's best for the business all the time. They may be moves that are a half step, like this, for example, where it's okay, we still need to make money, but also there's no reason for us to try to gouge you as a consumer. So, let's do this half step, make you happy, make us happy, everybody wins. So that's it.
Kevin, you said it yourself. You played through the Destiny 2 campaign and that was kind of it. It wasn't, when these games come out and they're kind of crappy, you don't want to give money to the studio, especially for those expansions. They're yeah, we want to where Activision's over here or EA or these other big companies try to poke you with a stick.
I want money
to get money out of you.
It's
exactly. Bungie, at least as just a latest example, Bungie is going okay, we're not making as much money as we were, but we're saving face with our audience. And now our audience won't be so hesitant to buy our season passes or buy our DLC when the little thing with these little things we do in game to save them a few bucks. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a saving face move. It's a business decision nonetheless, but it's good PR and it's going to make your audience really happy and just respect you more.
After the split,
agreed.
It's the money they make from the microtransaction and people buying the game. Is it still gonna go to Activision? Do they still have rights to Destiny 2?
I do not know how the paperwork works. I have no clue. I don't know whether they'll probably still make money off of things from Forsaken and everything that they actually worked on.
I don't know.
I'm sure they'll you don't know
because they own the IP now. That's why I'll give an example. So you remember THQ Nordic bought whatever it is, Kingdoms of Amalur?
Oh sure.
So they own that IP, right? But they can't re-release whatever it is. They can't re-release that game even though they own the IP because EA own the publishing rights, and EA hasn't sold them the publishing rights. So like it depends on how the IP is divided up into whatever. My understanding is that Bungie owns all of Destiny IP. Period.
Yeah, they own the IP and they own all the publishing rights. So
right.
I guess they don't need to have Activision's logo on anything.
They should be making all of the money from the microtransactions and stuff, at least from now going forward. And I would assume back catalog as well. It would be no different than if somebody else bought them out. You know?
I understand what you're saying. I was thinking of it a little differently. Yeah, I think that Activision isn't going to have any relationship with Destiny's income or Bungie's
probably
income
not
ever since the split.
Yeah.
No.
To answer your question, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't think Activision will basically be involved at all anymore. So that's yeah. Real quick before we move on, I think it's interesting because we talked about the way Activision treats consumers versus how Bungie apparently wants to deal with their consumers, and it's very different, but in their mentality. Activision views consumers as a revolving door. They don't care how many people are in there. They don't care if it's the same people. They don't care if it's different people. They just care about having that amount of people. Whereas Bungie needs to rely on a consistent fan base to keep their game alive because they're not coming out with a new game every year. Like, yeah, they're coming out with a new expansion every year probably, but, it doesn't have the same impact, I don't think. People don't view it the
I
same
understand
way.
exactly what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Where Activision was only concerned, with getting, and we talked about this in Destiny 1. This was an issue with Destiny 1. Destiny 2's core players dropped off after the first two expansions and then Taken King brought some back. Rise of Iron, some people left, new people came in, and you kept having these things where there were people playing Rise of Iron who didn't even play the base game, but they're brought in, and that's how Activision wanted it to work. As long as they have players, they don't care whether they're brand new, played the initial game, done this or that. They just wanted the people to spend the money on it.
Right. So, anyways, I think we beat that to a pulp.
We beat the story. We beat the story to death.
So.
Yeah.
I feel the same way actually. Like after reading the story and typing this up, I'm like, maybe I'll go back. So.
Yeah. Hey, I'm probably going to be playing a little bit after I'm done with this. You're welcome to join me.
I'm busy today, but I will definitely take you up on that in the future.
All right. Kevin, why don't you take us on to our next big news?
Next up is Xbox news. Gears of War 5 is not getting loot boxes or a season pass. The coalition has announced via a post on its site that the game will receive DLC maps for free. There is a new Tour of Duty system that will let you earn content, and you can purchase items directly, so there is no more RNG like Gears 4. There are no premium, pay-only content for Tour of Duty. There will be supply drops in the game which you will earn in-game and cannot buy. Just kind of like Destiny. These are where you will get the cars introduced in Gears 4. You can purchase customization options with real-world money and the premium currency iron. The game will also include boosts, which you can buy with real money. These boosts will include boosts to multiplayer XP, character XP, and escape and horde mode, and double speed supply drops progression. Now, Big Daddy Phil Spencer.
Big Daddy.
Boy.
Phil Spencer.
I'm typing in Poppy Chulo right now. Phil Spencer, Poppy. I don't know how to spell that. Chulo.
I'm pretty sure it's ULA, but whatever.
All right, so Phil Spencer, Poppy Chulo, talks on how Xbox can deal with their first-party games output. As you can see in this generation, their first-party catalog was not that great, or they'll come out years apart, or like at the end of the year. So compared to like PlayStation, it was pretty barren. And I'm an Xbox fan, so like I'm not trying to sound like I'm against Xbox. Like I love Xbox. Like bought a day one Xbox, bought the Xbox X day one. I skipped the S, but there was no reason for me to get that. But I got the X day one. Like freaking. But no lie, I was mostly playing third party games. And moving forward, hopefully
Right.
with Scarlet, I really do hope like they actually will focus more on first party games, or is this exclusive in general? All right, so Phil Spencer spoke on how he found it exciting that he was able to not have to showcase all the games their team are working on. So the E3 just passed. What you see there, which is not, that was just a surface, what they're going to actually show or have for the new Xbox.
Right.
Spencer fluently spoke to Kotaku about how in the past Xbox, quotation, needed everything at any point to hit the date that it had picked 3 years ahead of time at the very high level of quality. I am going to bullshit the crap out of his name. Thorough and Digital Foundry say Microsoft are only going into next gen with one console instead of two. Like, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, because this is like, how you would pronounce it?
Yeah, Thorough. I
Thorough,
think that's how
alright.
it's pronounced.
Thorough.
Yeah, I think it's. We had this issue last
was
time.
like, whoa,
They
like-
popped up. We couldn't remember how to pronounce their name.
Yeah, Thorough
Anyways,
points to
go
Microsoft
ahead.
reluctance to talk about a two SKU launch and how they keep referring to just Xbox Scarlet. So they're not going to have two Xboxes. Well, right now the codename is Scarlet. So no two SKUs or anything. Claiming to have talked with various people inside and outside of Microsoft, here's my conclusion as to why the device was removed from the roadmap. The two system specifications were essentially not allowing the developers to easily make games for both systems and prioritize running the game on a lower spec system and upscaling into a more powerful system. Digital Foundry claims to have heard similar things to the report, saying that it was a pain in the bum for developers. The report does go on to mention that only possible reason is that the xCloud has made significant improvements in that time frame, and the ability to stream games with any device made Lockhart become more of an obstacle for Microsoft, and the company will likely want to more directly compete with PlayStation's PS5. So
lots of information.
And it was
out
lovely
of those
information.
stories. So what do you want to tackle first?
Yes.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I read was that potentially they abandoned their lower cost console to focus on Scarlet because they were seceding some of that area to Google Stadia. You know, they're working on xCloud. It doesn't really make sense if they're focused on gaming streaming, then they don't need a budget option anymore. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
that was the point I was gonna make. Is basically they made their own product obsolete before it even came out. You know, they're like, well, if you could just play games on your phone, why would you need a dedicated Xbox that sits under your TV just to stream when you could just do it on your
the
computer?
budget model, no less. You know what I mean?
And there's been reports that the PS5 is going to be very powerful, and Microsoft wants to maintain that the ability to say we have the most powerful console. That's where their headspace is at right now. They want to be able to say, because PlayStation's moniker for the longest time has been the best place to play, right? That's been their advertising campaign, and Microsoft,
Which has been arguable over the years.
Yeah, exactly. And where Microsoft's is more definitive, and it's games play best on Xbox One X, which is almost always true. Very rarely is it not, but it's a development issue, not a hardware issue. So, I think you're right. They just basically eliminated the need for their own product. They're like, well, there's no reason for us to make this. Like,
Yeah.
The
So,
fact
and
that
then-
you have a lower model,
Go ahead.
you have to, upscale to basically it'll be shorthanding the actual premium model of the Xbox Scarlet as well. If you have two different models, yeah. So
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was a great idea for them, and in general, I'm just hyped as hell for the Scarlet or this next generation in general because I'm just cannot wait.
I mean, I'm excited because don't get me wrong, just like you, I'm an Xbox fanboy. Ask Mike, before I got a PlayStation, how critical was I on Sony?
Quite. You were quite upset when I brought home my PS4. You were like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
I
dude?
was livid. I was
He's
livid.
like,
But
how
I'm
are we
a
ever going
PS4
to play
owner.
games again anymore? How are we going to play games anymore? That's messed up. Why would you betray me like this?
But I had a 360. I got a 1 in the first month that it released, the original one. But I don't really know what to think about the next generation. I need to see how Google Stadia runs. Google Stadia is a huge wedge. Like, one of these things is not like the other kind of thing.
Right.
And if Stadia can make this work, they could put Sony and Microsoft in some serious
trouble.
trouble.
Google Stadia is the fact that I'm considered
agree.
like meant to like it's a PC platform in a way, and it's not connected to PC players. Like Google Stadia, like the games you buy in Google Stadia is like only could be played with other people that have that product. So it's like a new market with no player base at all.
But give it time. Give it time. Crossplay came. If crossplay can make its way to Sony, if they can finally sigh and go, oh, fine. I'm sure Google Stadia will allow crossplay eventually.
Like, there'll be no way it could survive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but they need to get their own. What they need to do is they need to get their own business settled first. If you know what I mean? They need to let the ground settle, see what kind of player base they're dealing with, and then work on that sort of stuff. Because there's no point in trying to plan for crossplay if Stadia comes out of the gate and flops. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sorry. Like I have absolutely no faith in it whatsoever. And it's Google, so like it doesn't take a big loss. It's not like a random company that's like small, like, oh shoot, they're gonna go bankrupt. Like it's Google, so it's nothing.
That's just it though. And I said the same thing to Mike in a previous episode. Google is a tech giant. And I'm not just talking about their ability to stream, because everyone's worried about latency. I get that. That's always been the big scary monster of streaming is game latency. But Google, if anyone can do it, it would be Google. And on top of that is that Google also makes very smart business decisions. Do you know what I mean? They have a lot of money and they don't just throw it around, even though they have a lot of money. I don't think that they would get into this market if they weren't confident in its ability. Do you know what I mean?
Like,
I don't sound convinced, but it's okay.
Like I'm trying.
I've given Stadia a lot of thought.
Yes,
I didn't just pre-order it to pre-order it.
Right. One person I know.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the Founders Edition.
Like, I was gonna wait.
Well, he's the perfect person to test this, in my opinion, because he has average internet. Like he has what most people have in terms of internet. So I think he's a good person to test this out. But anyways, go ahead.
And I'll also be able to test Destiny on all the platforms because I have it on PlayStation. I already own it on Xbox. And now the Founders Edition came with Destiny 2. So I will be able to see literally what is the best place to play. In fact, that'd be a good video for me to do.
Yeah, it might be a good analysis video for you to do.
Yeah.
Also, like,
where's my
Google
notepad?
Stadia, is it going to be like,
you should write that down.
This is straight up like a streaming server? Like, you're going to have like, you know how like the Xbox Scarlet is like, you're going to have a supercomputer from Microsoft to play your games, and you got to have like one right in front of you, like the Xbox itself. Is a Google Stadia is going to be like just the supercomputer they have in Google's like, headquarters or whatever you're going to have it at.
Everything's going to be done on.
So that's my problem with it. It's like
server farms.
See, like now Xbox have the option for both. Like say that right now, like before I used to be really, really like advocate of fighting games. Like I used to go to tournaments and like locally and all this stuff. Like I have 2 fight sticks, and the biggest thing with fighting game is latency.
Right.
Like, you do not want to play in lag. You don't want to have any type of frame drops whatsoever, because especially when it comes to playing like Street Fighter 4, which had like 1 frame combos, like you do not want any type of frame drops. And playing something like in Google Stadia, which is like only online, would be a problem. Like on Xbox, like Xbox, I could at least play locally. I can at least play streaming. Like at least have that option. But Google Stadia, you don't have that option. So
yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And we don't want to drag this news story too much into Stadia. This is an Xbox story, and I think we started to branch off. It's just my concern. I am excited for Scarlet. I have a One X. I'm a huge Xbox gamer. I just really hope that it's going to be viable, because you just never know what's going to happen. We could get our minds blown by Stadia. It can come out and go, holy crap, there's no latency. Holy crap. And next thing you know, there's no need to buy a super expensive game console anymore when I can open up a Chrome window.
Right. I don't blame you. I'll say one last thing and then I'll end it. But they have what is essentially a monopoly on video streaming online. and YouTube consistently doesn't work. So, like, I don't know, if I necessarily trust that will happen if they can't do it with videos, let alone games. But I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about it. Yeah, because I just thought about it because I've been trying to watch stuff lately, like on YouTube on my phone or whatever, have stuff playing in the background while I'm working, and it'll just randomly start buffering, and I have to close the app out completely because it will never load, and then I have to reopen the app, and then find the video I was watching, wait for it to buffer again, and then it will actually play.
Well, think about it like this,
sucks.
Mike. Think about it like this, okay?
So
Google has something to prove. Google has something to prove.
They can't
correct?
Fuck this up.
Google has something to prove. YouTube doesn't. Well,
I guess
you can compare this to the whole Steam and Epic Store argument. Steam got its first major overhaul that it had in years a few months ago.
Yeah,
because of the threat of the Epic Game Store. Steam runs like poop. You open it up, most of the time when I open it up, I open it up and it has to crash twice before it'll open.
Yes.
But it had a monopoly. It had a monopoly, so it had nothing to worry about. But now if YouTube somehow encountered competition on, say, another video streaming service came out of, or video uploading service came out of the blue, that was a major competitive to YouTube, I bet you would start to see a beautiful YouTube that you've only dreamed of.
Yeah, one could hope.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
YouTube doesn't care because they have the monopoly on that, and no one's able to compete with them. But Google has something to prove.
That's true.
That is a really good motivator for a multi-billion-dollar company. And I think that's a great place for me to. I think that was a good thing to end on, and I feel accomplished.
Well, thank you. So real quick, there's two other stories in there that we didn't really touch on. The Phil Spencer one, I'm not really sure there's much to really discuss other than him acknowledging, and he's always been pretty upfront about how he has done his best to turn the ship at Microsoft from what they were doing to what they want to be, and he hits the nail on the head of like, they didn't nail it this generation, basically. We constantly were trying to put out games. They were stressed that their teams were stretched thin, and that's where they were at. And then the Gears 5 thing, I put in
about
here.
The horrible launch.
Yeah, that's true too. What was so bad there? Whatever. What was his name?
I'm not actually
Madden?
Look up
What's
his
his
name
name
right now because I completely forgot.
I don't. The old CEO. He was so, the launch was so terrible, and he handled it so poorly that he resigned. Like, So
yeah, Don Maderick.
And then that's what it is, Don Maderick. Yeah. So anyways, the Gears 5 thing I think is important to put in here because Gears 5 is going to launch into Game Pass. And I think Microsoft is smart because they noticed the issues with loot boxes and they're like, we're not doing that. So don't worry about that because it's in, they have loot boxes in a couple of their games. Gears 4 has loot boxes essentially. It's part of the reason why I stopped playing it, to be honest. So I think this will be good for Gears 5's health and length. I don't know how much you guys. I know Chris doesn't really play Gears. Do you fuck with Gears at all, Kevin, or no?
Gears 1 and 2 was probably the game I played the most that generation. Gears 3 not so much because the Lancer had like stopping power and it's like it went from a shotgun game to more of like a Lancer game. So I didn't really care for it. But like Gears 1 and 2, I had like the best memories playing those games with my friends from high school, man. Like I was to a point like say they were losing a game. And it's like, how Gears a match would start, like, you start from one side of the map and the other people would be at the other side of the map. We play execution and we're like, damn, we're like 4-1 right now. Man, we're getting bodied. Screw it. We'll stay at freaking spawn, our back, our back towards the enemy, like our faces towards the wall. We just sit there. Like, we had all these great memories of doing dumb shit, dumb stuff, in Gears. And it's like,
no, you're fine.
I actually pretty hyped for Gears 5 because I feel like, even though Gears always had a story, but people want to talk about the multiplayer. I actually love Gears' story. Like, I really, really love the lore.
Right.
Gears 5, I see it as more like what's that game that came out from the company that Microsoft just bought out? I forgot the name. The game, it came out for PlayStation first, and then eventually got to Xbox. It's like about mental. It's like the girl, like this darkness. I forgot the name of the game. Hold on. Yeah, Hellblade.
Hellblade?
It kind of gave me like Hellblade vibe, you know, like yeah, like she's
Oh yeah.
like
I get where
I
you're coming
cannot
from
wait
with
for
that.
Gears 5. Like this is gonna be day one. But
I am pretty
the
hyped
thing I'm
on
kind of
Gears 5 too.
scared of Gears 5 or this Xbox exclusive in general, with this whole like Xbox games being like part of like of the Game Pass. I feel like because they probably not gonna work on the game as much because it's gonna give out to people for free technically, well, not really free, but in the service platform. So I don't think they're gonna generate as much money. So that's the only thing that something I've always been kind of scared of now for the exclusives.
Right. Well, we talked about. I've talked about it a bit. Chris has talked about it a bit, and I don't know if we've ever discussed it in terms of the subscription service. But if you calculate the average cost, we're not going to include. A lot of people buy deals and stuff like that. Like the guys in Fog and stuff, they find really good deals. But that's not generally how it is. A lot of people will just pay the $10 a month on the credit card through Xbox and just whatever, or 15, whatever it is for Ultimate. So, but it essentially comes out to if you're playing 3 of those exclusives, or you weren't gonna buy 3 of those exclusives, Microsoft's made their money. So I think Microsoft would rather get $15 a month from you guaranteed every month for years than be like, okay, maybe you'll buy 3 games this year, but maybe you'll only buy 1 next year. You know what I mean? When it comes out to the total amount of money that they're making, I think it just
but what about the quality?
Higher.
That's the thing I'm worried about. Like it's like I feel like
right.
like the developers, they're not gonna have like all these sales and like selling like 3 million copies and stuff like that because this is gonna be part of their Game Pass. I just feel like maybe the quality might actually be toned down. Just something I fear of. Yeah.
Right. I get where you're coming from with that. I totally understand. I think that's a valid concern, but I also think that doesn't help them at all. You know what I mean? Like Microsoft's very concerned right now about making their consumers happy and keeping them in the Xbox ecosystem. That's what their focus is right now, or at least that's what it feels like to me. Is that they're like, we want you to play on Xbox. We want you to be able to play Xbox games. We want you to be able to play them wherever you want to play them and play them with whoever you want to play them with. And you know what I mean? Like that seems like to be their MO right now. And so it would be difficult for me to think that while they're in that mindset, they're like, okay, let's skim some shit off the top and just kind of get this game out. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think it vibes with that mentality. So I'd be surprised if it happens, but I don't think your fear is totally invalid.
I agree. I'm still here, just so you know.
You.
Yeah,
I just don't. I don't play Gears at all.
Yeah, you have
I don't want
no
to.
interest.
I don't want to talk out my butt. It's not that I have no interest. I just don't want to talk about something I don't know. If you know what I mean.
That's fine. But why? Yeah, this is the internet. Don't you know? That's what you're supposed to do.
Why don't you play Gears? Like,
I mean,
just never have any interest in it. Is a third party, like third person. Just not a fan.
It wasn't my thing. I was a Call of Duty player at the time when I first encountered Gears, and it just played differently. Do you know what I mean? I was so used to playing one way, and since Gears plays differently, it just didn't sit with me. I tried it a few times.
Yeah, because when I got into Gears with Gears 3. That was the first one I bought. I'm actually doing a video on this. I'm gonna plug the shit out of our Patreon again. So that's I talked about Gears in this video. It's not out yet, but the focus of the video is how multiplayer shifted. And so Gears was super important to the way multiplayer was looked at and the way they viewed it, because it used to just be, okay, you just shoot people. But Gears is very tactical in the way you play it. You have to be very precise with where you're shooting, frames, movement, all that kind of stuff. So he was just used to being able to play Call of Duty, where it's like, all I have to worry about is swinging around this corner and I can shoot somebody.
As well. Gears pace is really, really slow. Like
exactly.
The rerun, it's slow.
You're right. Yeah, even the run is slow. So I think that was always kind of, and he didn't really play third-person games that much at that time either. A lot of what Chris was playing back in the day was first-person stuff. So, but anyways, do you have anybody got anything else they want to say about the Xbox stuff, or are we good to move on?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, cool.
We're good.
It's time to talk about our favorite company on the face of this planet, EA. Oh boy. So, their CEO has been hiding under a rock lately, as one would expect. But he came out to speak to GameDaily.biz about the company's recent issues and failures. I have it linked in the sources. I would recommend you go and read the whole thing. I'm just going to read some highlights here. Things that, the juicy bits that we actually want to know. So Wilson spoke about Battlefront 2, stating, quote, "We found ourselves in the middle of a pretty challenging conversation on that one in particular. The game, even at launch, was, I don't want to go as far as to say a great game, it was a really good game. It had some issues with the progression system, and the team made a lot of promises about what they were going to put into the game. I'd like to believe that a lesser company would have just tossed it and moved on." End quote. Regarding Anthem, he said, quote, "We brought together these two groups of players who were making this emotional value calculation on two different vectors. One was traditional BioWare story-driven content, and the other was this action-adventure type content. About the 30 or 40-hour mark, they really had to come together and start working in on the elder game. At that point, everyone kind of went, oh, hang on a minute. Now the calculation is off. It's off because I've got a friend who sits in this other category of player. They want to play the game a certain way. I want to play the game a certain way. The promise was we can play together, and that's not working very well. Oh, by the way, I'm used to 100 hours of BioWare story, and that's not what I got. Or, I expected that this game would have meaningfully advanced the action component that we'd seen in games like Destiny before, and I don't feel like it has."
He said the C word.
End quote. Yeah, he did. I thought that was particularly interesting since BioWare didn't, want to talk about it at all.
Said they didn't want to be Destiny.
Right. So then Wilson went on to speak directly about loot boxes, the main source of income for his company, with the publication saying, quote, "Whether it's direct purchase or this mystery box style that's become commonly referred to as loot boxes, we really think about four key vectors: value, fairness, choice, and fun. We want to feel like we get a good deal. We've got life services, businesses that are microtransaction fueled that have some of the highest sentiment and highest engagement in the industry. So it's actually possible to do this right." End quote. I'm going to read another EA story because this is a branching one, just like the Xbox one, and then we'll discuss. So interestingly enough,
this sucks. Sorry, I just wanted to say it. Go ahead.
You're fine. You can't contain your disgust. I understand. So EA also got the chance to speak to the British Parliament because in Europe they're having some issues with loot boxes. So they wanted to learn more about loot boxes in games and stuff like that. So
oh my god, I think I have to take off my headset for this.
Yeah, me too.
I already read this. Oh my gosh,
he's gonna become irate.
Gosh. Oh my gosh, this story is the equivalent of. Oh my gosh, just do it.
It's the equivalent of what Xbox told, what was it? A Navy sailor or a Marine? Oh, just don't buy an Xbox One because it's always online. It's the equivalent of that stupidity. So, representatives from EA and Epic recently spoke with the British Parliament, thoroughly embarrassing themselves. The session included many old person type of questions like, how do you make a game? The members of the Digital, Culture, Media, and Sport Committee did, however, ask some pointed questions. The committee asked about things like playtime, which the Epic representative stated he had no idea of. The EA representative stated that it doesn't track that information. The committee also asked about the duty of care to players, so the obligation to make sure that consumers are taken care of, the potential for addiction, and then the World Health Organization's gaming disorder classification, along with loot boxes. This last one is where EA representative Carrie Hopkins put her foot into her mouth and stated, quote, "We don't call them loot boxes, we call them surprise mechanics. People like surprises. We do think the way we've implemented these kind of mechanics is quite ethical and quite fun. They aren't gambling, and we disagree that there's evidence that shows they lead to gambling." End quote.
Oh my
I
God.
disagree
Oh my God.
with scientific evidence and facts because I am dense.
I lost brain cells.
Okay, part of it. I could go on about this for a week. But the first thing I'm gonna say, you know what? We should talk about the Anthem part first.
Let's talk about the
because
Anthem part first.
We had two stories here, and if I start on this, I'm not gonna stop. So
fair enough.
Let's go to Anthem.
There's
first.
no surviving Anthem. There's no hope. I'm not saying
A lesser company would have let it die, but nope. You know what? We believe in it. We believe we can still find a way to gouge people.
Yeah,
We're trying.
we believe in the ability to monetize this
mechanics.
Yeah, we will find a
With
way to
surprise
make you
mechanics.
spend more money on it. You just wait.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my goodness! Like I have absolutely no faith.
Look,
That's for the second part. You got to talk about the first part first.
right. So, like, I know Wilson's job is to basically go out and be like, my company is great, and then somewhat kind of half-ass
Like
apologize.
damage
That's his
control,
job,
like damage
basically.
control.
I get it. But, right. I get that's his job. But at the same point, we just talked about the other, Phil Spencer is what, CEO or VP? Or president, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought he was CEO. So, he's very transparent. And I think he's very clear about things for the most part. Sometimes, he stumbles and he says some shit that's wrong, but for the most part, he's on point and he reflects criticism. Wilson's just like even with Battlefront 2, he's like, we had a good game. People were upset about our progression.
He's
system.
like if the fire department showed up to a building that burned down a week ago.
Yeah, pretty much. At this point, it's too late. Way too late.
It's been too late.
All right. So I don't know, man. Here's the thing. I was telling my fiance about this last night. I showed her a picture of Andrew Wilson. I was like, what kind of feelings does this man invoke? Because I just wanted to know, what somebody who has no idea what games are or really anything about the gaming industry or EA, what does this man, his look alone evoke? And she's like, I don't trust this guy. And I was like, oh, good. He just looks untrustworthy to the regular human eye. Wonderful. Jesus. So yeah, I get it. That's his job. But the thing about Anthem is just not true. That's the thing that aggravates me the most. Is where he's like, we basically tried to steal Destiny's player base, and then we also tried to mix it in with the traditional BioWare player base, and then make that kind of game. And it's like, no, very clear.
But it's not any of those things.
Yeah, but it's not any of those things. It's a half-ass attempt to rip off of Destiny using some of BioWare's previous ideas that's poorly implemented. That's clearly
that burned down a week ago.
Right. The game was not prepared in the way Destiny was.
I can't really say much because I didn't play it. I watched Twitch and all the stuff, and that game it's a mess. I'm sorry. Maybe because of me, because I played Destiny 1 religiously back then, and I'm just looking like Anthem, basically a competitor to it, and it's like, what is this? What is this game? People waited all these years. Well, even though they announced it kind of recently, but they said the game was developed for a very long time, and look what they pulled out. This is not a BioWare game at all.
Right.
This game was not in development for a very long time. Go read Jason Schreier's article. Right. It's really good.
Did you read that article? Long story short,
it's a long read, but it's very informative.
Right. Just so that we can catch you up enough to have a discussion right now about it. Long story short is the game was, quote, in development for 7 years, but they didn't actually start production until a year and a half before the game came out.
So what they're doing the first 5 years?
So they basically made the entire game.
No one even knew what they were making.
Yeah, they just were making assets the whole time.
Half the people didn't know the new name. They changed the name to Anthem, and half the people didn't know the name until they revealed it. When they did that reveal trailer where it showed the gameplay, half of the company didn't even know what the new name was before that.
Right.
Yeah.
They were just screwing around. They were doing pre-production of this is not what we want to do. This is what we want to do. Oh no, we don't want to do this. It was.
They had bad leadership.
They screwed around.
It was bad leadership.
Yeah. They didn't accomplish anything.
Okay.
So
now let me please start.
Yeah,
on the next
you guys can go into the whole loot box parliament thing now if you want.
Okay. So, first of all, let me say that this is one of the issues with this right here, with gaming and government trying to get involved. Okay, I don't get me wrong, I'm at the government on this one. EA needs to be stopped. I am totally with them on this. But the problem is, if you go and read the transcripts, you can tell just by the questions they ask that none of these people have ever played a game in their life. They don't understand. They just don't understand how it works. Do you know what I'm saying? On paper, you think they think they do. So, because if you look at these transparent questions, if you asked a group of, say, people in their 30s or 40s, if they were in Parliament's position, they would be asking very different questions than are being asked by this committee.
Right, because the committee is made
and
up of pretty old
is
people.
Preying on that. Yeah, EA is preying on that here. Surprise mechanics? This is not a Kinder Egg.
They did compare it to a Kinder Egg.
I know. I was taking it from that. I was taking it from the transcript.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't include that here, so people who hadn't read it or heard about it at this point, they don't know that.
No, this is. Oh my god! I want to. Oh my god!
There's so many things. There's like so many things wrong with the statement. That's the issue.
Phrase from Justice League. There's a phrase from a Justice League movie where there's a meteor coming or something, and Superman's like, "Why don't I just move the Earth out of the way?" And Batman says, "I couldn't explain. If I had a week, I couldn't explain everything that's wrong with that." That's how I feel about this now.
Yeah, honestly, that's how.
So many things are wrong with this, and they're preying on the fact that all of that these are. And it's not their fault, that it's not their fault that they don't play games. It's just the EA is totally preying on that.
Right. Well, there's nobody to represent us. That's the issue. The issue is you have a company talking and politicians talking to that company, which is pretty standard, at least for American politics. But for the EU and for Britain, they're way more involved in their politics, and their politicians are way more involved with the average day-to-day life of the civilians. So it's one of those things where, first of all, they were like, "Oh, we don't record playtime." Bullshit! You don't record playtime. I know for a fact
butt you don't record playtime.
I know for a fact you record playtime. That's because that. First of all, I've worked and I work at currently a call center. Right, a call center is one of these places that loves metrics. They love all these metrics that they just make up. They just come up with new metrics. That's a combination of other metrics, right? Like, there's no way this isn't happening with games, because Epic has pretty much formulated their entire structure to be Fortnite and the Epic Game Store. Like that, they've completely restructured their company to be that. And EA's, in my opinion, entire infrastructure of their company would fall flat on its face, and they would go bankrupt almost immediately if they did not have any sports licenses. Because that's the only thing that makes EA money. I mean, don't get me wrong, the other games make them money, but they're not making billions of dollars off of Battlefront 2. They're making billions of dollars off of Madden every year, off of FIFA every year. So like, I think it's also dependent on these licenses, because like the NFL could pull their license. They're not going to, because the NFL needs money too. And they're in their own situation right now. And then, FIFA's not going to pull their thing because, they're not going to do that. Like, why would we do that? We're making a bunch of money and all we have to do is be like, yeah, sure, use our stuff. They don't actually have to do anything, So we're in a situation where it's like the only people that are talking to our representatives are people who are trying to rip our wallets out of our back pockets. Like, so it's like, what the what are we supposed to do about it?
Known for like ultimately company, and like last generation, how like last generation they actually had something where like if you bought a game that was used, you actually have to buy like a $10 code to have online access. Do you guys remember that or no? The Xbox 360 and PS3, like it was a time where, say you bought like Madden, 2011, right? And you bought a used, you had to buy
and you had to buy the online pass.
Stay online, because when you buy a new, It came with
Yeah, I
football,
remember
you
that.
know. So like they're always trying to like like basically rub a wallet off. But like beginning of this generation, I
Right.
thought they actually was improving, like especially with Plants vs Zombies and all these good games, and like I was thinking like, okay, maybe EA is actually going to be more consumer friendly and like this to the gamers and all that stuff. And then they just
Never.
did a complete 180 and went back to being like a freaking like a company was like, you know what? Only I care about my investors, not the freaking not the gamers at all. I don't care. Like I just want your money, but I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about what you want. I just want money.
Right. Right. Well, they're in that same camp as Activision, where it's like we have this cash cow, and we're gonna run this cash cow into the ground. But unlike Call of Duty, sports players are more casual usually. Don't get me wrong, like there's still hardcore people that play sports games. Daryl plays sports games. Kevin,
No.
do you play sports games? I can't remember.
Hell no.
Okay.
Hell no.
I sure as hell don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I just couldn't remember if you liked,
No.
football
I'm just
or
a
anything like
tall
that. So,
black guy, big as hell, but I don't care about sports at all. Maybe basketball in real life, but in games, no, hell no.
fair enough. I was just curious. But anyway, so those audiences don't care. They'll keep buying the same sports game every year, whatever. They want the roster up. They want this. They want, whatever. So that's a little bit different than Activision, whereas we're starting to see it with Activision. Call of Duty's selling, don't get me wrong, it's selling still, it's the best-selling game every year. It's still selling either on par or more every year. But the issue is it's not reaching the expectations that Activision set for it. And so in their minds, it's declining, right? And so that will affect the way they deal with games going forward. And we've seen with EA, they're obviously they're not willing to put out games that aren't going to be these cash cows. They just don't want to do it anymore. Like, so we saw Anthem come out, it flopped. What was the last EA game that came out that wasn't a sports game?
Oh wait,
Battlefield?
I forgot. I'm pretty sure it was Battlefield.
It was
Battlefield, I think Star Wars, and then Mass Effect. Well, I'm saying it backwards, but
Right. So yeah, I know where you're coming from, but still, so realistically, they haven't put out a single game worth a damn in a while, So without those, honestly, I feel that way. If they didn't have their sports games, I'm not sure they would even exist anymore because they've just screwed up so much for so long. Respawn. They have Respawn too. So cool. They're putting out a Star Wars game that might actually be good, But
Respawn is literally EA saving grace as well because they put out good quality game.
Honestly, and
I thought it was really funny. When Respawn came to show Apex Legends, they made it very clear EA had absolutely nothing to do with this. So
yeah,
please don't hate us.
Pretty much. Respawn's one of the few developers they have that they allow to kind of be independent, but they're also Respawn can function by itself. BioWare can't. That's why Anthem sucks. Because they're oh, you have to use Frostbite. Guess who hasn't been required to use Frostbite yet? Respawn. So they are treated differently, And Frostbite's not good. So and we've talked about this. We talked about it forever ago with the Anthem stuff. So but to get back to the point is with all the loot box stuff is first of all, EA finally gave in Belgium. Because they were suing, I think, or they were looking for litigation to kind of get FIFA and all that implemented back in, and they decided they weren't going to do that anymore, and they backed down on it. But they said the same thing. We don't agree with the committee's definition or findings, and it's you can't disagree with a study. It's a scientific study. It's a fact. You can't disagree with it.
Yeah, dude, you can't do it. It's the same people that try and say we violent video games lead to violent behavior, and it's just I'm sorry, read a study.
True. It's just not true. It's just a talking point that somehow has become a thing because we've repeated the lie enough that it's become truth. But it's just not true.
Anti-vax.
Yeah, basically. So what the fuck, dude? Like, okay, it's not gambling, sure. Okay, but it exhibits most of the characteristics of gambling. So you would say it relatively is close enough to be a relative to gambling? No. It's a surprise mechanic, like a Kinder Egg. Except I don't have to pay $60 to buy the wrap of the Kinder Egg and then pay an additional $5 to open up the Kinder Egg.
Kinder Eggs didn't cause my divorce.
But, and people aren't spending thousands of dollars on Kinder Eggs. No one's doing that. So, I don't know.
They don't believe in their argument either. They don't believe it. I mean,
no, it's just an easy cash cow.
All right. I think we need to end this. Because
we're becoming
so
incoherent and annoyed.
Yeah. So I'm so worn out and just angry.
Over here, like,
I need a cigarette.
Stay awake.
Jeez.
Hangover. Go away.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Anyway, here's our frustration.
Especially EA.
Companies suck.
And Activision.
Yeah.
Ubisoft is
actually,
a
lot of companies suck. Yeah.
In my opinion, good, for the most part. But the other two, EA is horrible. Square Enix is horrible. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
we gotta talk about Square Enix sometime. Me and you gotta talk about Square sometime.
Okay, I should never mention Square Enix. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's time to
All
go.
right. Okay, we're leaving. Okay, try and check us out at least once a week. That's how often we try and do this. You might like what you find. We've got other shows in the works, and of course, check out the Patreon if you're interested. I am Ambassador Chris.
And I'm Ambassador
Michael.
Kevin.
And we will see you next time.
Goodbye, friends.
We're gone.